Welcome to our controversial podcast. I'm Taylor Washington, and I'm here with
Journey Pleasant.
And today we're here to talk about the Tennessee laws that were passed about a year ago.
Okay, so one of the ones that we're talking about is the trans athletes bill, which I could not find what it's actually called, like the legal name, but so I just put trans athlete bill. But it was signed into law by Republican Governor Bill Lee, signed last year, making it mandatory that student athletes must prove their sex matches the one listed on the student's original birth certificates. And if the schools fail to adhere by the rules, then the Department of Education can withhold a portion of state funds. Tennessee lawmakers are also trying to get a separate bill where they will ban trans athletes from participating in female college sports.
And now for our sponsor, Nephews. Get 10% off any pan of chicken using the code T-DUBS TDubs. Now back to our podcast.
So, what do you think?
I personally don't agree with the cutting of the funding. I feel like there are better ways to try and solve the trans controversy. Now, do I think trans people should compete in their biological sex division? Yes, because when it comes to just like strength and things like that, there are a lot of discrepancies between men and women. And also, I just want to talk about who the law affects, because we know it affects trans people, but it also affects like biological women too. Because I feel like biological women get the short end of the stick. They lose a lot of scholarships when they compete against trans women. They miss out on opportunities. They don't get medals, and they don't get recognition. And I think the most important thing that comes to sports is fairness. So when we talk about trans athletes and whether them competing against women is fair, I don't think it's fair in a way.
I feel like my opinion on this, I feel like I have an opinion, but I don't have an opinion, only because I'm not an athlete, because I can see both sides. And it's like, on one hand, the whole reason I believe that a trans woman is a woman, and they should be allowed to compete and do whatever they want to do in the women's aspect. But I also do understand why people are like, well, their bone structure is different. Their whatever is different, so that gives them a competitive edge. So I see both sides. So I don't know if I can really have a true opinion on this and say, well, this should be this or this should be this, because I see why both are right and why both are wrong. Because you telling a trans woman, oh, well, you can't compete in this because you're different and you should compete in the men's category. There are people out there who are killing themselves and committing suicide because they're being told that they can't do X, Y, and Z. And I know, like, some people say, and I think you said it, say that, well, they should just make their own division. I completely forgot to look it up, which I'm kind of mad at myself about, but I forgot to look up the statistics of how many trans athletes are there actually. I'm pretty sure there has to be a certain amount of people that you need to compete in a sport to make it an official section. So is that even going to be possible? And also, let's say that you do have them compete in the men's division. Then, first off, what are those guys going to think? And secondly, what if they actually don't do good, but what if they don't do better than they did in the women's division? Like, then what? Is it really because of the bone structure or how they were doing, or is it just because they're just that good? It's a weird process to think about, all in all. But.
So you mentioned something about you not having an opinion. I don't think this is personally opinion, and it's not. It's factual. When we talk about the differences in physicalities between men and women, men have more muscle mass, they have more upper and lower body strength, they have more speed. Now, women, they have more flexibility, they have more stamina. But when we see just sports being competed between men and women, men almost always outperform women. And this isn't to say that women are weak. We just have different things that we're good at, because biologically, we are designed to be different. And even if you look at like world records, if you look at the men's track, 9 seconds ran by Usain Bolt and 10:49 ran by Florence Joyner. And I don't think a lot of people understand in track, seconds matter a lot. it can take a year of training just to gain a second on like sprinting, on the 400, 4x4. So I don't think a lot of people realize that. And when we're talking about like if it's fair for, let's say, a biological male who wants to be a woman to compete against other men, I think that is fair. Because they're men. They both have the same abilities. Not always. Like, yes, some men can be stronger than other men. But that's if you're saying we should have biological men against biological women, I think that's even more unfair.
And now for a quick break to introduce one of our sponsors, Godfather's Pizza. Buy one pan, get one free. I want to say it's not even... That's why I say I see both sides, because while it is not fair, you can't just say someone, oh, because you're different, you can't be in that division.
Like, I don't think it's saying because you're different. I think it's because it's unfair. Sports always come down to fairness, and that's why.
So what are they gonna do? Because if the let's say realistically, you're saying that trans women cannot compete against other women, what makes you think that the male teams are gonna let them compete against them? They could say no. And then what?
Well, then actually, that's not true, because Leah Thomas was identifying as a trans woman and still competing against men. In a lot of cases, I want to bring this up, a lot of trans women that started out doing sports as men, they were already doing bad enough. Leah Thomas ranked 400 in, I don't know what event it was, but Leah Thomas was ranking 400 as a man and then transitioned to a woman and was number one and won a championship that I forgot what her name is, Riley something could have won. So it's not that they're going to have to compete against men and do bad again. They were already doing bad. So if that's the case, I just think their level of ability isn't that good compared to the other men. But it's still so unfair. When we have men competing against women most of the time don't even have a chance.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think I'm more thinking about it on the mental side of things. You telling someone, because you're trans, we're going to put you here. Because even though you are a woman, we're still going to put you in the man section because, well, you're a man. Like, I feel like that's so... If you're going to say that, find a better way to say it. Don't just say you have the body of a guy, so you can't compete against girls. I feel like if they word it better, then maybe it could sound...
So how... Because I feel like both ways are kind of getting the same point across. So how would you want them to say, like, since you're a biological man and you can outperform these women, we think it's unfair for you to compete? I don't think we have to use euphemisms or try to sugarcoat how it is, because it is
not
unfair.
Sugarcoat. I'm just more... I don't know how to explain this correctly, but it's just like you never know other people's opinions. So you could be competing in the men's division as a trans woman, and none of the people there want you there, and you're going to be able to feel that.
Well, that goes both ways. I think if you looked at Leah Thomas's teammates and what they were saying, a lot of them were sending anonymous letters saying, we don't feel comfortable. Let's just look at it from their point of view. You're number one, you've been doing well, and then all of a sudden you have someone who you know is going to outperform you. They take your spot, they take your scholarship, they take your money. You're forced to go into a locker room and see like a private part you don't want to see in the locker room, and that's not
But that's
fair.
the same thing for the men, so it's going to be both
ways. It's not the same, though, because Leah Thomas is still has, like, male parts.
Well, yeah, but what if she's not comfortable changing in the men's room?
Change in a stall. So if we...
You see how that sounds? You just say, like, oh, we'll just change in the stall. Well, then...
But Leah Thomas still has the body of a man. So I could understand,
but still,
like...
But still, that has to be uncomfortable for her. If it's uncomfortable for the girls and the women's, if they have to change there, they're saying that I am uncomfortable with you being there. You don't think that Leah Thomas is going to be uncomfortable changing in a room full of guys.
And that's why I said we need to have a separate division. You said we might not have enough people, and that might be the case, but it's either compete in your biological sex, or we create a separate division, no matter how small it is, or they accommodate Leah. They put Leah in another room where Leah can change and not be in front of the men. And I don't like how when we talk about this issue, women aren't the majority in this issue. It's always trans women. And I feel like that's not fair to the women. If Leah wants to compete on the women's sports team, with which I don't agree with, have Leah change in a separate room. What's the issue with that?
I'm not saying that's an issue. I'm just saying don't be a woman. If anything,
well, let me ask you.
Does not even be a woman. Be a good person. If I would rather have you come to my face and say, "Hey, I am not comfortable."
Well, let me tell you, these women, they don't have the. I'm sorry, they don't have the option to say that. Did you see what happened with Riley when she said she didn't feel comfortable competing against Leah? She got bombarded with death threats.
Did she say that on social media or did she say that to Leah? Because there's a difference. If you come to me personally, to my face, in a calming and friendly
you're saying it from your point of view. You don't know if Leah's like, if you don't know if Leah could have taken that the wrong way. And we're seeing when people try to express how they feel when they're uncomfortable in certain situations that relate to trans people.
Then that's something different. You put that out on social media. You say, "Well, I'm uncomfortable with this." That's something different.
Well, no, because let me tell you,
the issue first.
Riley tried to talk to coaches. They told her. Riley tried to talk to her coaches. She tried to talk to her trainers. They told her, "Deal with it. You're gonna have to go through this if you want to keep competing." And do you think that's fair? Because if you're saying it goes both ways, what if they told Leah, "Hey, you might not feel comfortable changing with the men, but just deal with it"? Is that fair to you?
No, I'm not saying that Riley should have. I'm saying talk to Leah. I'm not saying talk to your.
Well, I don't know if Riley talked to Leah. I didn't go through all of that.
I'm just saying, like, you put stuff out there on social media saying that I am not. I feel like you should solve. Just me personally. I'm not saying for everybody else, but me personally. Solve the issue with the person first before you go out there blasting everything on social media. So she's saying that she talked to her coaches and to her trainers. And she said that they said, "Well, you'd have to deal with it if you want to compete." Okay. Me personally, I'm not talking about right, about me. I would go and see if I could talk to Leah and say, "Hey, you're a great person," or something, whatever, and come to her in a friendly manner and say, personally, me and a couple of other girls who I will not name because I don't think they want to be named, don't feel comfortable changing in a place with you.
But, okay, I see what you're saying, and I understand, like, talking to them one-on-one. But my thing is, if Leah wanted to kind of reach a general consensus with Riley, I don't think Riley would have gotten the hate that she did. We saw, like, she was bombarded. People tried to hurt her. There were mobs like going after her. So even if you're saying talk to the individual, I understand that. But the coaches and trainers, they are over Leah. So if Riley talked to the people over Leah, wouldn't you think that Leah might have had something to do with what the coaches and trainers were saying?
Not always.
Leah's gone on the news saying, like, I don't know why people feel uncomfortable. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
That's something different. I didn't know that. I didn't see that. That's something different.
Okay.
I did not know that part. But I'm just saying, putting things on social media I don't want to say it's a bad idea, but you have to watch what you say because there's some crazy people out there who are gonna do crazy things because of your opinion.
And I don't condone that. Just because you have a certain opinion doesn't mean that people should attack, demean, harm you. I don't agree with that at all. So if someone isn't mature enough to take an opinion, if it's said in a respectful manner, then I don't want to deal with that person. And I think because if we look at how a lot of people are talking about the trans issue, the ones that don't agree, they get canceled from society. Like, people actively try to harm them, and that is a concerning thing. And if you are uncomfortable with anything in a sport, you shouldn't feel threatened to say how you feel. And I just don't like that aspect. But since we were talking about trans women competing against women, and you're saying, like, trans women are women, what makes a woman a woman?
That is such a general question, and I feel like that's such a personal question where I can't even answer that.
So
that's
okay.
What makes a woman a woman? What makes a man a man? What makes a person a person? That in itself is a personal question that is different for I believe that's different for everybody. I believe that's different for each and every person. What makes you you? What makes
So
me me?
I don't think that's the case, though, because if you look at science and biology for years, we have always said a man is someone that has a penis, someone that has the capabilities of getting a woman pregnant. And this isn't to be transphobic. I'm just stating the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman is someone that has the capability to give birth, to have a period, XX chromosomes for women, XY for men. So when we try to change things based on like mentality and how people feel, I think it kind of throws the balance off.
Well, that's not what you asked. You said what makes a woman a woman.
Yeah, and that's what makes a woman a woman.
That's two different things. You're talking about mentality and physicality. That's two different things. I know what makes a woman physically. I feel
so. Okay, well, let me ask you this: if we know what makes a woman physically, why are we trying to do sports based off someone's mentality? Sports, yes, sports involve mentality, but if
because
sports
I don't
come
want
down
nobody
to
killing themselves because they can't.
Well, then
because that's
a mental health.
That is a mental health issue. But what I'm saying is, if you're saying, let's say you told Leah Thomas she can't compete in the women's division.
We're not saying Leah Thomas can't compete at all.
She can't compete in the women's division, right? If she goes to the men's division and people do the same thing that they did with Riley, they hate crime her and they try to go up to her and kill her, they're going to take her. They are going to take her out of the men's division. And if there are not enough people to make a trans division, then here's the thing. I do a lot of things, from sports to acting to all of that. The things I do are because I love them. The things I do are the reason that I breathe. Even though, yes, it's hard, I look forward to going to rehearsal after school, to going to practice, to doing the work that I want to do. So you taking that away from a person, like a basketball player. I don't know any of their names, but people are out there are saying, well, you can't play because you have a torn ACL or a torn MCL.
But that's different. That's an injury. You're trying to coincide like an injury with someone who isn't supposed to be.
I'm trying to get the general idea. You telling a person that they can't do anything.
You're saying that Leah can't compete at all. That's not what I'm saying. Leah just can't compete against women. Leah was competing against men for like 18 years. So what's the difference now? The difference is when Leah transitioned, Leah saw a change in how she was performing, and she was outperforming women. And that's when it comes down to that is not fair. And if someone is willing to kill themselves because they're told you are biologically a man, it's not fair for you to compete with women, they have a major mental health issue. Like if someone told me, Taylor, you're a girl, you compete against girls, why would I feel the need to want to hurt? And I know it's gender dysphoria. I know stuff like that is real. I'm not saying gender dysphoria doesn't exist. Trans people, if they feel that way, yes, it exists. It's real. But it is not fair to negate the feelings of the majority for someone who has been competing against men for years. And Leah was always competing.
But at the end of the day, you don't know a person's mental health state. You don't know what they're going to do. You saying that that's a part of mental health and that they need to get, then that's a whole different story. Yes, but at the end of the day, if someone kills themselves, they kill themselves.
Yes, and
for no matter what reason.
That is tragic. I don't want anyone to kill themselves. But if you're going to kill yourself because you are told reality of life, that is concerning. And it's concerning
Everyone's reality of life is different. Your reality of life could be different.
That's not true, though. Because if we're talking about facts, there's only one truth. There's only one reality. And you might not want to accept it. You might not think it's true. But that is the truth. That's why I'm a woman sitting in this room right now. And you're a girl sitting in this room because it's the reality of the world. It's the truth. And when you try to change the truth so other people can try and be different, it's not fair to women. And if we talk about sports, it's down to physicality. A man saying they want to be a woman should not be competing against women. And with Leah Thomas, the only difference is Leah is taking estrogen that might have lowered muscle mass a little, and Leah still has the body of a man. So I don't see the issue here. Compete against men. Don't make it harder for women. Leah wasn't doing good to begin with. So I don't see the difference. Let the women have their right to compete against women and win the scholarships and things that they should be allowed to, and let Leah Thomas compete against men like Leah was already doing before.
I'll agree with you on the part where sports is about physicality, but I don't want anyone doing anything to themselves because they are told that they
And I
can't do
agree.
something that they love.
I don't want someone to
But
hurt
I'm
themselves
just
either.
saying that that's a possibility because if you look at the facts, right? You saying that Riley, she put out stuff and people hate crimed her, they tried to kill her. It's a possibility that the same thing can be done.
So then what
to
about
Leah.
Riley? Because we're talking about Leah so much. How do you feel about Riley knowing that she could kill herself because people are saying, how dare you go against a trans person and try to invalidate
That's
their...
the wrong thing too.
Yeah, so
I'm just saying the fact that, how about this? That's a whole different story. That's a whole different topic. Telling about people voicing their opinion and people not being respectful enough to say, okay, agree to disagree and let's move on. People going to hate crime and harming people. That's a different story, which we actually don't have time for because we're kind of overtime right now. But yeah, I feel like physicality is physicality in sports. Yes, but
well, so then I have a question for you. Since we're talking, you're saying there wouldn't be enough.
I'm not saying
people.
I'm not saying because I completely forgot to look up the statistics, which I'm really actually mad about. I don't know, but I'm just saying like if there isn't enough, then there won't. So that you can't. If there are enough, then yes, they can have their own division. If there is enough trans people out there to make their own division in sports.
Okay,
make
so
what if
there aren't? Because I think we both recognize that I don't think it's unfair for Leah to compete against men, but I think we can both agree that it might be unfair for both sides. It's especially unfair for women. So what would be your compromise if we can't have a separate division, if Leah can't compete against men, if Leah can't compete against women? What would you say for that?
I would say that's just sad because she can't compete against men and women without people out there saying stuff about her. People are going to say things regardless. I know that, but still.
Just like people are saying things about Riley regardless, and they're still going to say stuff.
People are going to voice their own opinions no matter what. But I would say the safest option, the safest and fairest option physically and mentally is to have their own division.
And I agree with that.
But if they don't have their own division and they have to go into the men's, I'm just letting people know there might be some complications no matter what. Now, there's always going to be complications. Yes.
And there can be accommodations made. Like, Leah can change in a separate room if Leah doesn't feel comfortable. If the other men don't feel comfortable being around Leah, Leah can have her own stall, her own locker room, or however it works. We do stuff like that at Maryville where some trans people, if they don't want to go into the men or women's restroom, they can go into one of the single bathrooms. So it's like making accommodations, but not to the point where it's unfair for both sides. I think that's my thing.
I think I'm just more worried about the social media aspect of it because people in the world are so cruel and they don't think about the things before they post. And if people are constantly posting saying that things that I will not be speaking about, saying things that are just terrible, that can weigh on a person. Like you're saying that I don't understand why someone being told that they can't do this, why they should go that while they might go kill themselves. I'm saying if all you see online on your phone, if like this night is she shouldn't be doing this, yada yada. She's a woman. Why is she in this? Why is she the best division?
Because we don't want her there.
So I feel like I know people are going to say that regardless, but like that's my only problem. I know people are going to say stuff regardless, but I don't want anyone to do anything that they can't take back.
So if we're saying that for Leah, then that should be the case for Riley. And if we look at it, I don't think trans people are marginalized in society because if we compare the facts, Riley had a mob on her. Riley had people trying to kill her. Riley had people going after her. Leah had people saying stuff on the internet. That was
I'm not saying anything.
I know, but I'm just, when we're saying, because you're saying mentally Leah might not be okay.
I know mentally Riley. I know mentally Riley's not okay.
Yeah. So my thing is, Leah, I'm not saying Leah doesn't have anything going on, but when it comes to who's getting hurt more, obviously it's Riley in this case. I think actually, well, let me finish real quick. Mm-hmm. Actually, if Leah went back to competing against men, I think this whole controversy would die down. Yes, some people on the LGBT side would be upset, they'd be furious, but at the end of the day, people would recognize this is fair because this is a biological man competing against other biological men. That's what I think it is.
Okay, you saying that Riley is in more pain than Leah, I will disagree with, because everyone...
I said who was getting hurt more.
Who's getting hurt more? Everyone takes hurt differently, I feel like.
Well, yeah, but we can't really... if we're just talking about what we see from the outside, from the outside,
yeah, Riley's getting hurt more.
But like, talk about the minds of these people. We don't know what these people think about. We don't know. So I don't think that's really a good thing to go off of, because yes, people take hurt differently. But if we're talking about who's being affected more by people, it's Riley.
If we're going to, then yes, affected more by people, yes, that's Riley. But then I don't want to bring up anything that I don't know for a fact. I don't know for a fact if Riley is getting hurt more by Leah. Do I know that she's getting affected more by people on social media in person? Yes. We've talking about hurt and pain. Personally, no, I don't know. We don't know. I don't like to talk about things that I don't know for a fact.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's like we overtime people. So we're gonna go. We just sat here rambling. Okay.
If you guys want a part 2 on any other controversial podcast, let us know. So signing off PNN, I'm Taylor Washington.
And I'm Jamie Pleasant, and you guys have a rest nice of your day.